So let's talk about listening. So I love this week. I love being able to talk to you all about and give you resources about listening. It sounds really squishy. It's because it's not the kind of thing that it's easy to teach in a doctrinal class. And it's really amazing to have an opportunity to give you a little bit of training and materials on active listening and other techniques that will help you connect with the people professionally that you will need to connect with. And not just because you're going to be talking to them, but because you're going to be listening to them. So we don't train students very well in law school on listening. We train you really well in talking, right? And how many people, I wish I had you in person so I could see the hands, but how many of you went to law school because people told you that you were good at arguing, right? Arguing is very much, they probably didn't say, oh, you're a really good listener, you should go to law school, but it actually is just as important. So, we don't spend the time listening that we usually spend getting ready to speak. And so this is a way to sort of flip that switch a little bit and pick up some techniques that help us do that. There's studies done that show that lawyers tend to be, at least when they start off, kind of low on the emotional intelligence scale. It's not something that law school is good at training you on, which would be professional empathy, sort of getting in other people's shoes, being good listeners, getting good information, collaborating, team building, etc. And so self-assessment and things like that. So those are things kind of that we're going to be tackling as a theme in this course overall, and we've done it a little bit. But the rest of the semester, we're going to be spending a lot of our time on those kinds of themes, and this is one of them. So backing up a little bit, why listen? Why do we worry about having to listen? Dumb question, right? Think of all the people that come to us as counsel, right? That we need to listen to. They come to us with their problems. They are our clients. They also have other people that we have to listen to. We have opposing counsel. We have judges. We have our supervisors, our bosses, our coworkers, our team members, people in our lives. We need to listen to all of them or bad things happen. We could definitely have an imaginary discussion, yell out all the things that you think are bad things that happen if you're not listening, right? We've all had it done. So I will assume that you're doing that, even though I can't see you. But we all know what happens when listening goes bad, right? Turn my notes over. So how do we fix that? How do we become good listeners in a profession that really has never done a good job showing us how? So a lot of the resources that I'm giving you this week are meant to do that. But the basic idea is making a space. This is going to sound really squishy too. Make a space, making a headspace, getting yourself in a place where you are a receptacle. You are ready to receive information. So the first thing that you do is not just sort of dive in to a conversation or dive into a place where you're getting information, but really taking a moment, clearing the table, if you will, in your mind, and really putting yourself in a place where you're focusing, distractions are minimized, bias is minimized, you're concentrating, you're noticing, you're in a place where you can really focus. Okay. You want to make sure you really understood at the end of the day what information has been given to you, whether it's verbal or whether you're reading body language, whether there are nuances in the person's demeanor, or whether there are more questions that need to be asked. But at the end of the day, we're really not talking about interviewing just yet, which is where you would be following up right away with information. Basically, we're just going to sit in the listening space. Let's just make sure that we're getting that listening done. And this is a really good continuum that we're on. So the anti-racism module from last week is a good lead-in to this sense of sort of being in a non-judgmental space, a place where we sort of get rid of biases, because a bias will affect the way that we take in the information that we're hearing when we're listening. Next week, we're going to be talking about strengths, your ability to see other people's strengths. And that becomes sort of an intuitive process as well, which leads into your ability to be a good listener and to interpret what you're hearing. We're also then going to be talking about bias in week 8 which also ties into the concept of having information come at you that you do not impose your own filter on, right? That you try to take as purely as you can. And finally, we will hit some mindfulness and meditation work when we do self-care. So this is all part of sort of a long continuum of ways to approach being generally professionally ready to enter as sort of, you know, helpful lawyers as well as emotionally intelligent ones. So quickly, what is in the reading, let me just show you or tell you what's in there. There's a article from Santa Monica. That's the first one. It's a long one. It looks really long. Like I said, I'm an impatient reader, so I look at something, I think it's 48 pages long. It is kind of daunting. When you open it up, you will see that the pages are very small. Okay, there are 48 really small pages, and half of each of the pages is footnotes, and there's hardly any type on all the pages. So don't be deterred by the supposed length. But I really, really like the content in that article. It is written specifically for law education. And that's what I really like about it. It's not sort of this general, you know, oh, you should just listen, you should whatever. It's really, really helpful to put you really in the shoes of someone who's in real legal situations. So that's the one we're going to start with. The second one is called The Privilege of Wisdom to Listen. And that one is written by a large law firm person. And so that's the perspective that is going to sort of sit against the Santa Monica article in terms of, you know, this isn't just going to be client work. It isn't just going to be people in crisis. We're going to have to listen even in very sort of sterile, professional, what we could think of as maybe corporate situations that aren't necessarily someone in crisis or someone who's having their worst day. You still have to be able to listen. And so it's great to see that perspective as well. And all of these articles are bringing lots of ideas to you on ways that you can most be effective as a listener. And I won't spoil the ending. So go ahead and dive into those and see what kinds of techniques you can pull out of those. The other one that I wanted you to see is from the Massachusetts Bar, and it's part 3 of a larger series. And they did it on lawyers and anger management, which I think is fascinating. Apparently a big enough issue that there was a series written. This is part 3. It actually does not deal with anger so much as self-regulation. And I like this one because it talks about regulating your emotions, and listening is so much a way of sort of repressing or holding back on what you really want to do. Because think about when you're listening, most of us are really trying to figure out something, right? We're not just sitting and listening. We are judging. We are evaluating. We're thinking of questions. We're thinking about what we're going to say next. We're thinking about whether the thing is true. We're thinking about whether it upsets us. And every time we do one of those things, the meaning of what we're hearing is slipping away a little bit more. We're missing something else, or we're misjudging what's actually coming at us. You know, what the words actually are, what the person's meaning is meant to be. And so the idea of self-regulation when it comes to listening is actually not spoken of that often, but I think a really interesting and crucial piece of being a good listener. So that was a really excellent article, and I wanted you to have access to that. And finally, there's a short, just an online article on deep listening, which is not written for lawyers. It's the first one that is not. But generally, I mean, everyone has to be a good listener, right? So there's lots of good resources out there. So I've tried to curate one for you that isn't just for lawyers, but also has a lot of really good techniques for you. And finally, the last topic I just wanted to bring up to you is the idea of the video. So there's one video in here. It's very short. It's less than 2 minutes, I think, 2 to 3 minutes. And it is, it's a monk, right? It's a Buddhist monk. His name is Mingyur Rinpoche. He, I love him. He does a lot of really great, sort of entertaining, instructional videos for people who are not trained meditators. He does it in such a way that he really brings the idea of what you can do in meditation practice to bring it to your life and to make it work for you. And he's very accessible. He's kind of funny. And I like him because he really embraces the real life struggles of what it's like to try to meditate and what it feels like and whether you're doing it right. Um, so I really like this in the context, like, what does this have to do with listening, you're saying? He's talking about the monkey mind. I'm like, what is that about? So let me tell you, I have found over the years, so I learned what meditation was for the first time when I was in college in 1980, blah, blah, blah. And it was really revolutionary for me. I was in a class. They brought in, a group of meditation people, and it was 8 o'clock in the morning. And I thought, okay, I'm a goner. I'm going to fall asleep. And I didn't. It was 5 minutes of meditating, and, the world seemed crystal clear when we were done. It was really kind of amazing. And I've been trying to do it ever since. And I think everyone who, whether they're a quote unquote expert or just a dabbler like I am, who meditates, will tell you that they try to do it, right? You never really master it. It's a thing, it's a technique. It's like any other kind of exercise. But I wanted to introduce you to the concept of whether you call it mindfulness or meditation, or what forms of yoga, or noticing your breath, or stillness, or whatever you want to call it. This is a really interesting, very practical application of that technique. And so this is what I mean. I know some of you probably have practiced meditation or mindfulness before in some form, and some of you may not. But basically when I talk about meditation, I'm talking about something very simple. In this case, it is the monk talks about meditating for 1 second. And that is having one thing that you concentrate on, and you're pushing all other things away. So you may have a syllable or a breath or a number or something that you're trying to keep in your head and keep your thoughts on while other things are happening in your head. That's your monkey mind. And it's the rest of the things in your head are trying to distract you from this, say, number one. So one. This other thing is trying to keep me from thinking of one. What do I have to do on the way home? Do I need any groceries? What's still left on my day? Is anyone going to knock on my door in a minute? One. Whoops, I forgot I was supposed to be saying one. That's what meditation is, right? And no matter how long you do it, you may be able to remember to think about one for 3 breaths. You might forget to do it after one. But if you keep doing it, which I don't do it every day, but I do it when I can, you'll start building up what I think of as a muscle, but it could be a habit of figuring out what to do with all of those little thoughts that are bothering you when you're trying to go one, or or think of your breath or whatever it is, and your mind is going, hey, you're not allowed to do that. You're supposed to talk to me. I have these things that I want to tell you. Oh, by the way, did you know that wombats poop in cubes? Wait, where did that come from? Okay, so your mind is doing these things. What do you do with those? That's happening when you're trying to listen to someone, right? So this is an area where if you have been doing this with your mind and you've had these little games with it, and you've been trying to say om, or breath, and you're able to say, hey, mind, that was nice of you to butt in, but go over there, and I'm just going to go back to my om. And you're able to notice that it butted in, send it away. No judgment, no problem. That's what minds do. It's okay. But now I'm back. I'm going to go breath. Okay, mind, you came back in. Nope, I don't need milk on the way home. Breath. Oh, you're back. If you start being able to do that, the better you're at it. That way, when you're listening to someone and you realize that a sentence or two has gone by and you've lost them because you're thinking about, oh, I think those tickets go on sale tomorrow. I hope I don't forget to get online at 10 o'clock. And then you realize you've missed some of what they said. And you instead of freaking out, you just like, I'll do better. I'll do better in a minute. Push it away. Concentrate back. So let me give you a couple of examples of where this works in listening. I mentioned that I have office hours on Tuesday and Wednesday. So I don't have people in my office every minute on Tuesday and Wednesday. So oftentimes if you come to my door, it's open, but I'll be doing something, right? I'll be emailing one of you back, or I'll be working on something or writing something or looking for great articles for you guys. And someone will knock on my door and they'll have a great question. And I'll be super happy to see them, but I'll probably likely be in the middle of a sentence, or there's going to be something that I'm in the middle of doing. And so even if I finish the sentence, or I'm never going to exactly finish that task before I start talking to the person that comes. And so they're going to come in, they're going to sit down. I'm going to want to give them my full attention. And so I will be talking to them. I will be hearing what they're telling me. I'll be gleaning their problem. And in the meantime, my brain is going to be saying, hey, you stopped in the middle of that sentence. How are you going to finish that sentence? Don't forget to click send. I bet you're going to forget to send that email before the end of the day. Or, oh, that tab is going to expire before you finish what you were doing on it. And you're going to have to start over. Or, hey, that issue that you were reading about in that article was really interesting, wasn't it? I wonder if there's a podcast about that. My brain is going to want to be continuing to go with doing what I was doing before, and I have to bring it back because we're not doing that anymore, brain. We're concentrating on the person I'm listening to. And so the idea that I am really, it's strenuous sometimes, is really concentrating on making sure that my attention is on the person I'm listening to, even though I'm absolutely aware of what my brain is trying to do to me. It's trying to distract me, and I'm able to push it away. And just keep bringing it back to, not right now, I'm doing this over here. Not right now, I'm listening. Not right now, I'm listening, is something that feels very much identical to the not right now, I'm breathing. Not right now, I'm meditating muscle. So it really does help. It feels much more familiar to be able to do that if you see it as something tied into a meditation or yoga practice. In the medical field, I've also read that a lot of times when doctors are doing rounds, or they're going from patient to patient, even in a general practice, and your doctor knocks on the door, you've been waiting for them for a while, they've probably just been with someone else, or they're going from bed to bed, checking in on all their patients. They have to switch quickly, right? They have to go in and start listening to the new patient and looking at their stuff and focusing in on their chart, and not carry forward with them the stuff that they just had to deal with from the patient before. And in order to clear the cache, or to keep those memories or those residual issues from bubbling up and sort of keeping them from concentrating on the new person, a lot of them will practice that same, not right now, brain, I'm doing this. Nope, that was then, this is now, sort of go away, I'm busy, it's okay, I don't hate you, but we're going to do this now, kind of mental exercise. And for them, it can be really difficult, especially if one case was extremely emotional. They had to give someone very bad news, or they lost a patient even, and they have to go to the next one. It becomes, a real challenge. So it is something that we will deal with. You may be under a lot of stress. You may have a big deadline, or you may have just dealt with a client who was crying, and now you have to go talk to your supervisor about something else, and you're just trying to hold it together, and you're trying to sort of listen while other things are in your head bubbling around. So a long way to talk about meditation, but I think that is the least predictable thing that I'm giving you. So I wanted to give it some time to talk about. Now, let me just say, since I said that, it makes it sound like there is no room for you to process if you are having an emotional reaction to what you're hearing. Obviously, if there is something that is upsetting you, there are spaces for you to deal with that. I'm not expecting you to sit there and sort of bite the inside of your mouth or do something horrible just so that because you're not allowed to show it. But this is sort of geared towards sort of a more normal situation where you're just normally sort of being distracted. So we'll talk about other things when it comes to self-care and stress management as far as the other stuff goes. Okay. So finally, just a quick note on the reflection. This week's reflection is meant to give you a little bit of practice. So this is up to you. It is self driven. What the assignment is for you as you're reading to pick out a technique that you think sounds interesting to you, whether it's something that you never heard of that you think you would like to try, or something that you think is particularly appropriate to the kind of work you're doing at your placement that you think might help you as you see things. Go ahead and pick one and then try it out. Try it out if you can at your placement. If for some reason you don't pick it out until like 5 minutes before this is due, give yourself a little extra time to actually try it out, maybe if you can. I'd rather have you do it and be late than not do it. On the other hand, if for some reason there's no one around at your placement or the timing doesn't work out and you want to try something out on a family member or a friend, or you see a technique that you can just use by, having a conversation in the hallway with someone and using a technique that shows that you're listening to them and seeing what happens, that's okay too. But the idea, the perfect world of this is for you to take one of these techniques and bring it to your placement with you and do it. So that's the undertaking. And then your reflection is just telling me what it was and how it went. So as I said, if you want to do two, that's great. If you're doing this pretty quickly, and keep these resources for the future, because even though I'm only having you try one, I guarantee that there's more than one that will help you. And I think actually I asked you, if you had the time, which one would you do next? And so just bear that in mind, what you want to do next. Download and keep these resources as a reference guide. So have fun listening, and thank you for listening. And I will see you next week. Enjoy.